We're going to do a video on how to make salsa. So I've got all the ingredients here that are needed. I've prepped a couple of things to save a little bit of video time, but you typically need some tomatoes. I've got a few Roma tomatoes here. I've cut the pits out of them right now. I usually do a red bell pepper, a red or an orange, or sometimes a couple different ones. You need a red onion. I've got some garlic here. We've got some tomatoes that are the red slicing tomatoes. Those are the vine ripe tomatoes. Sometimes I use those afterwards once I blended everything up. If it's a little bit runny and I want to thicken it up a little bit, I'll dice a red tomato or two into it and then mix that in after I blend it. I've got limes, so I usually use a whole lime. I've got that cut into quarters. I'll use a couple of jalapenos, kind of depending on the size. These came from the garden, so they're not real big, so I've got about 4 or 5 of them here. And depending on how hot you want to make it, you can decide if you want to put the jalapeno ribs and seeds in or not. If you want it a little more mild, you can de-seed it and just use the outer skins. So anyhow, we will get going and I'll kind of show you what I do. I guess first I start off with getting some tomatoes in the bottom of the blender, because it helps get some good juice going to get everything else swirling around in the blender. Everybody probably has different kinds of blenders. I have a Vitamix that works extremely well. Other blenders may not work quite as well, and you may have to move some of the material around in there to get it blended up really well. So anyhow, I'll cut my orange pepper, red pepper in. I just kind of mix things. I don't put everything in all at once, so I'll put kind of half of the stuff in and then kind of mix things around. Sometimes I'll cut things into pieces a bit so the blender can do a better job. The red or orange pepper will kind of sweeten things up a bit. We've got some garlic we'll use too. I'm gonna get the onion. We'll get it going. So I use a red onion. Pull some of that outer skin off. And I got all the fresh internal part of the onion. And with my onion, I'll usually slice it up a bit too, and then let the blender do the rest. jalapenos. I don't know, putting more jalapenos in than I did last time. Last time it didn't get as hot as I would like. I mean, it stayed actually pretty sweet. I don't necessarily like it real hot, but you like it to have a little bit of spice to it. And jalapenos are different. Some of them are spicier than others, so it's kind of a challenge there. Sometimes when I cut the top off and I know I'm going to throw the top away, you can touch the top of the jalapeno to your tongue and see if it seems to have a lot of bite, and then you can decide how much you want to put in. If you like it really spicy, maybe you leave more ribs and seeds and put more jalapenos in. I'm taking some of the seeds out. I'll leave some this time, but we'll take some of them out so it's not quite as hot. But maybe we'll get a little bit more bite. And as far as lime, we usually kind of juice a lime in there, and we'll let all the juices go, and then I will usually make sure I get all the internals of the lime also to throw in there too. And we want some really good lime in there too. I just realized I don't have the sea salt out. Sea salt is another ingredient that I also like to use. We'll put that on the top in a minute. We'll get a bit of lime in there. And we'll get some garlic in there and cilantro and stuff in a minute. There's a lot of lime juice. There is a secret for garlic cloves. So if you don't know how to skin a garlic clove, you pull it off of there and it's got that skin around there, and it's like near impossible to get it to peel. So what I typically do is put it on a hard surface, take a knife, and you can do that, and it should come right away from the skin. So there we go, skin off. And I can cut the little bottom part off of it. I usually kind of dice up my garlic a bit too. And we will do another one. Oh, I lost that one. I'll get it in a minute. And that one is skinned. feel like if I dice up the garlic a bit before it goes in the blender, it helps the flavors, spread around a little better, and then you are less likely to get a hunk of garlic in the salsa. We'll put that in there. Some of this stuff off here. Let me get some sea salt. I will need the sea salt in just a minute. And I got garlic. Go. I may wait to put this garlic in for a little while. Wait until I get things mixed around. Sometimes I make my salsa in a couple of halves, just because the way I normally make it, it produces a lot. I'm a little bit lighter on the Roma tomatoes today. Usually I do maybe about 8 Roma tomatoes or so. And then we want cilantro. So usually I will dice it up too before it goes in. I usually use pretty much about one whole bunch of cilantro in my salsa. But by dicing it up ahead of time, I feel like it also helps the flavors meld a lot better too. I'm gonna wash my hands. They're a little bit sticky from the garlic. Now I can get the cilantro in. And I'll use the other half of the bunch in just a little bit. Let me see, do I have everything in? We're gonna use some sea salt. Let me get it. I just kind of wing it. Probably ends up being somewhere around a teaspoon. I might need a little bit more. In the end, probably around a teaspoon. Sometimes when you get your salsa done, you can taste it, and it still may taste like it needs a little bit more salt. But it does, the flavors do meld together when you get it done and you put it in the fridge and let it sit for a while. The flavors really start to come together. So I am going to go ahead and blend that. So we've got a good Vitamix blender, and I usually have it on the smoothie setting because I want it to get pretty fine. I don't always let it go all the way to the end. It'll go through its cycle and blend faster and faster, but anyhow, I don't want it to get too fine too quick. That smells good already. So now that I've got that blended up, I can start to add the other stuff that I want to add into it. And that smell, it already smells so good. So if you go by the ingredients that I have, and I'm kind of showing you here, it makes a really good salsa, and it seems like the proportions are really good. The only thing you can kind of vary according to your taste is the jalapeno. And I'll see, you can always add more jalapeno too. So if it's a situation where you're not sure, how hot you want it, and you can always add, dice up a jalapeno and put it in later if you want to add a little more spice. But sometimes those flavors will meld together for a while, and it may pick up a little more flavor, a little more heat as it sits there, depending on what you have added. This one will probably be a bit more on the sweet side because I'm using a red pepper and I threw in an orange pepper that I needed to use. So normally I'll just do like one red bell pepper, and if I'm using a little bit more tomato, I will probably use pretty much a whole red onion also. I'll probably still use most of this onion, if not all of it. Because a lot of times it's hard to have too much onion in a salsa. So I think this will turn out really good. I'll try it too when it's done. Let me get the rest of a lot of times I'll just leave the bunch together on the cilantro, and then you can just start slicing a 1/4 inch off at a time, and it makes it a little bit easier to handle and to make sure that you're kind of dicing it up pretty well. That cilantro has a lot of flavor and smell too. It's pretty potent. I think the cilantro and lime can really make your salsa. We'll see. I'm gonna seed this jalapeno a little more, and we'll put it in there too. This one got a little bit red. I have a big jalapeno plant in the garden, and it's got red and green jalapenos on it. They seem to have a little bit of potency. Jalapenos kind of depend on if you water them a lot or not. You water them a lot, the fruit gets a bit bigger and the flavor tends to be a little more mild. If they're in a more of a heat stressed area, then jalapenos tend to be a lot more potent and hot. Let's get some more lime in there. Like I said, I end up using one whole lime and I juice it in there, and if I can get as much of the pulp in there too, I do that. Kind of depends. Sometimes you're able to juice it extremely well and pretty much everything comes out, but Kind of depends. And then I'll add a little more salt to it in a minute too. I gotta add those other tomatoes. The red slicing tomatoes that you see there, those vine ripe red tomatoes, what I typically do with those is, so this tends to be a really good blender and it blends things up pretty fine. But if I want my salsa to be a little bit more chunky, I will kind of dice up a couple of red slicing tomatoes afterwards and then add it to the salsa after the blender. That way it kind of beefs it up a little bit and it's not quite as runny. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. It's just something that I do sometimes, and when I end this video, I probably won't dice them up and add them in yet. I may add them later, but we'll see. We'll see how it comes out. Trying to do a little bit of the work ahead of time on here so that it didn't end up, the video didn't end up taking a super long time. I don't know what we're running time-wise on the video right now. Let me see, I might want to add one more garlic clove or two, I'm thinking. That's a neat little trick that my wife showed me, as her family being Italian use a lot of garlic, and I didn't grow up eating a lot of Italian food. We didn't mess with garlic a whole lot, and that is a pretty ingenious trick to get the coat off of the garlic when it, if I did that with that. Just smash it and it just peels off. Otherwise you sit there, you're trying to peel the darn garlic and it wants to stick to it until you smash it and make it release. Alright. I just cut those little bottom parts off of the garlic. And then we'll dice this. And we'll get this in there. I think I'll add some more onion. And we are almost ready to blend the last part again. You can see it makes a lot. It doesn't seem like your ingredients are all that much, with one onion, and this time I think I had 5 Roma tomatoes and couple of bell peppers and the internals of a lime and a bunch of cilantro, and it really seems to beef up more than it seems like it will. There's the sea salt, and we will blend again. And let me get some chips. Grab a few. Grab a few tortilla chips. I need to open a new bag of chips. Let's see how that tastes. Oh, that is so good. Got a little bit of bite. Yeah, the cilantro and lime, they really add to the flavor. I think I may add a little bit more onion to it in a minute just to finish up using the onion, but you can see that made a good amount of salsa. I don't know for sure how much that is. I guess this probably has some. I guess that's around 7 cups of salsa. Normally I do somewhere around double the amount of Roma tomatoes, and then I haven't added these in. If I want to add those in, I can. And probably if I add a little bit more onion and a little bit more of the cilantro, probably close to 8 cups. And a lot of times I'll make double that. I figure if I'm making it, I might as well make a good amount, and it goes really fast. But man, that is flavorful. So that is my salsa recipe. Hope you enjoyed it. As I kind of showed you how I do everything. I know I cut a few corners at the beginning. I already pitted the tomatoes and cut the tops off of the bell peppers and did all that to try to save a little bit of time, but I'm sure our video is probably still taking quite a bit of time. But hopefully that's helpful. If you make the salsa, you'll have to let me know if it turned out well for you and what you think. And I don't have a lot of videos on my garden channel yet, but I'm going to continue to add some on there, so you can like and subscribe. And I guess that is it. Thank you.